Going on everybody, this Afro think tank. The Israeli government, the IDF, the Israeli military, the same military we fund, right? The same military our tax money goes to, right, in order to fund their genocide, right? And their criminal empire, their criminal state, right? That same military we are currently fighting an entire war against Iran on behalf of, right? They have already arrested and detained one of our American journalists and treated them like trash. Now keep in mind, the Israeli military, the one that we fund, has killed multiple Americans who are in fact journalists on purpose. All right, but you see, your American media doesn't tell you anything about that. Your American media ignores it the same way your American media tried to ignore the fact that Donald Trump, all right, ordered a strike that killed over 100 and something grade school children, little girls. You see how we just gloss over that, right? Just the same government that was crying about Benghazi, because some American military contractors who are warriors, all right, who are soldiers, who know that when you go into the theater of battle, especially under a private contractual basis, that it's possible. It may be possible that you can get killed, all right? But they were crying and whining about Benghazi as if that was just the end-all be-all, when we have something that makes Benghazi looks like nothing. Absolutely nothing. Killing children, multiples of hundreds of children, on top of all the multiple of hundreds of civilians, on top of all the military personnel who have died and been maimed, all right, in a war that was unnecessary. How many American military personnel have died because of Donald Trump ineptness, right? The same president that, by the way, killed hundreds of thousands of people his first go around, but I guess the short-term memory, the TikTok memory of modern-day society is so short, they forgot that, and they reelected him again after failing to reelect him. So they tried multiple times to get this guy that killed millions of people because his criminal ineptness back in office. Keep in mind now, they tried, and every single time Donald Trump was running against a woman, and the misogyny the first time and the racism and the misogyny the second time is why you allow this adjudicated sexual predator, this alleged pedophile, right? This rich oligarch suffering from affluentia that you cannot relate to in any way, who doesn't know the price of milk, bread, and probably never have because he never had to get it himself. Right? You allow this guy, this stupid guy who's so much a failure that he couldn't make a casino work, right? This guy, you made him the president, right? So because of that, right, we find ourselves in this here situation, right? So what we're gonna do right now, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep learning, all right, about these mistakes that's been made by these Europeans, all right? We're gonna keep learning about the atrocities that they attempt to hide. We're gonna keep learning about the atrocities that they allow to happen under another flag, right? Under our stepchild, right? The abusive stepchild called Israel. The country that we work for, the country that we pay our tax money for to make sure they can continue to terrorize people who actually are from that area. This is pan-Europeanism, which we're fighting right here. And what you're going to see is that the only reason that these Americans did not get killed, probably more than likely, because we've had other CNN news journalists get killed, but CNN don't care about that, right? Because Israel did it, so it's cool, right? You're going to see what happens with regular IDF soldiers who are just as bad as those settlers who are in coordination, meaning private Israeli citizens, right? And military personnel harassing, killing, and terrorizing the local population with the sole purpose of stealing their ancestral land so they can occupy it. All right, outside of the government pushes this. And you're going to see the true soul and heart of these so-called chosen people that for some reason white Christendom done designated these Europeans that were refugees from Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Russia, Poland, Germany. You just migrate all of them like the criminal illegal aliens that they are to somebody else's land and then have them take over and be savages. Matter of fact, I'm starting to believe that the Nazis were just transferred to non-practicing Jews in order to hide themselves so they can continue the white supremacist terroristic activities they were doing in Europe. I'm starting to believe that the people that we call Jews now are in fact the Nazis of the past. We didn't just hide them in Venezuela. We didn't just hide them in other places in South America. We didn't just hide them all in South Africa. We didn't just hide them in Australia. We hid them right in Israel. The fictitious land called Israel, because Israel, that's not where Israel was, right? And Israel's a person, not a place. It never was a place. That's the whole thing about it. I mean, you just read the Bible, it says it. But that's besides the point, right? The fictitious book, right, that people gather their religious beliefs from didn't even say that that was, you know, that's the place. But, you know, white folks like to make their own shit up. So let's go ahead and pay attention. Let's see what the American-funded military of a failed terrorist state does to people who dare actually participate in what we call journalism, something that's very rare nowadays by these so-called journalistic corporations that we call CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Israeli soldiers detained a CNN crew for 2 hours in the West Bank. They put a photojournalist in a chokehold. They said the entire West Bank belongs to Jews. One admitted the outpost was illegal and said he'd legalize it himself. Within 48 hours, the IDF suspended the entire battalion. Because this time, someone had a camera rolling. It lasted 2 hours. But what those 2 hours revealed has shaken the Israeli military to act faster than it almost ever has. On March 26th, CNN correspondent Jeremy Diamond and his team were in the Palestinian village of Taysir, in the occupied West Bank, covering the aftermath of a settler attack. Israeli soldiers arrived, detained the crew, and one soldier placed CNN photojournalist Cyril Theophilos in a chokehold, dragging him to the ground and damaging his camera. It did not end there. Several soldiers told the crew on camera that the entire West Bank belongs to Jews. Others said they were carrying out revenge for the death of 18-year-old Israeli settler Yehuda Sherman, killed in a suspected ramming attack near Nablus days earlier. One soldier, identified only as Meir, acknowledged the outpost in Taysir was illegal, but said it would slowly be legalized with his help.
The 2 hours we spent detained laid bare the settler ideology motivating many of the soldiers who operate in the occupied West Bank, and the ways in which soldiers frequently act in service of the settler movement.
The report aired, and within 48 hours, IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir had suspended the entire battalion responsible. The Netzer Israel Battalion, a reserve unit drawing heavily from the ultra-Orthodox Netzer Yehuda Battalion, and known to have attracted members of radical right-wing settler groups, was pulled from the West Bank immediately and reassigned to training until further notice. Zamir's statement left little room for interpretation.
Weapons are to be used solely for the purpose of carrying out the mission, and never for revenge. We will not accept such incidents within the ranks of the IDF.
The IDF called the incident a serious ethical and professional failure. Military police have been ordered to investigate the assault on the CNN photojournalist. Additional disciplinary measures against individual soldiers are expected. Not everyone welcomed the decision. Far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir called the suspension a grave mistake that harms Israel's deterrence capability. The battalion had previously drawn scrutiny under the Biden administration, which considered sanctioning Netzer Yehuda in 2024 over alleged human rights violations against Palestinians before dropping the plan after Israel provided assurances of corrective action. Rising settler violence in the West Bank is reported daily but rarely prosecuted. In recent months, repeated attacks from illegal outposts have driven dozens of Palestinian families from the northern Jordan Valley, the same area where the CNN crew was detained. This time, someone had a camera rolling.
اللهم عرف بينهم وبين محمد وترحمت وتحنن على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم. هيهات من نزلنا، هيهات من
الصلاة الصلاة يرحمكم الله.
بس ترجعوا لنا ورا الاخوان ورا حتى
اللهم عرف بينهم وبين محمد وترحمت ورحمت وتحنن على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم. هيهات من نزلنا، هيهات
من كان يرجو الله واليوم
الصلاة الصلاة يرحمكم الله.
بس ترجعوا لنا ورا الاخوان ورا حتى
اللهم عرف بينهم وبين محمد وترحمت ورحمت وتحنن على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم. هيهات من نزلنا، هيهات من
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.